Hello learners, this is Excel with Habeeba. We are discussing the topic perspectives in education, under that history of education and the subtopic education in post-independent era. We are going to discuss different commissions during this period. So let's begin. This section focuses on major landmarks in the development of education during the post-independence period. So the first major initiative in education taken by the government after independence was appointment of the University Education Commission 1948-49. So the commission was appointed under the chairmanship of Dr. S. Radhakrishnan. This commission is better known as Radhakrishnan Commission. So the recommendations of the commissions were the maintenance of the highest standards of teaching, research and examination in the universities and colleges and their control, the course of the study in the universities with special reference to the maintenance of a sound balance between the humanities and sciences, and the standards of admission to university courses of the study with the reference to the desirability of independent university entrance examination, etc. The provision for advanced study in Indian culture, history, literature, language, philosophy and fine arts, etc. So this is all about University Education Commission, that is also known as Radhakrishnan Commission. After that, what happened? Secondary Education Commission, that is with the recommendation of an all India policy on secondary education laid down by the Central Advisory Board of Education, made at its 14 meetings held in January 1948, the Government of India appointed the Secondary Education Commission in September 1952 with Dr. A. Lakshmi Narayana Swamy Mudaliar, that is Vice Chancellor, Madras University, as its chairman. So the commission was directed to suggest measures for reconstruction of secondary education with particular reference to its aims, organization, content and relationship with other levels of education. So in spite of its limitations and inadequate treatment of certain problems, the report presents a complete progressive blueprint for the future development of secondary education in India. So its terms of references were to inquire into and report on the existing position of secondary education in India in all its aspects, and to propose measures for its reorganization and progress with particular reference to the aims, organization and contents of secondary education, its relationship to primary, basic and higher education, the interrelationships among different types of secondary education, and then other allied problems. Moreover, the commission was of the opinion that both the state and the central government should make every effort to find the necessary funds to implement these recommendations and adopt a planned and coordinated policy for the purpose of establishing standards in education. So the next one is Education Commission 1964-66. Several recommendations of Radhakrishnan and Mudaliar commissions had remained to be implemented, and some of them were out of date. So on account of all these, there was the need for a new system of education. It was therefore felt that there should be reorganization and reorientation of all the stages of education, that is primary, secondary, university and technical education. So therefore, the Government of India appointed the Education Commission in 1964 under the chairmanship of Dr. S. Kothari, which is popularly known as Kothari Commission. So the main objective of this commission was to assess the whole educational system in India. The report comprises recommendations on all aspects of education. It covers education at all stages from primary, that is pre-primary, through the secondary to the higher education. It also, the Commission's recommendations covered different areas such as reforms needed in education, including a language policy, structure and quality in education. So, various aspects of school education including achieving the universal retention, that is also a main recommendation. It highlights not only the present defects in the system at each level but also offers practical recommendations for eradicating them. So, this is all about Kothari Commission. Next comes the National Policy on Education 1968. Based on the Kothari Commission's report, the National Policy on Education 1968 was formulated. It was for the first time in the recent history of education that the members of all the political parties discussed together and prepared the draft of the statement. This draft was accepted by the Central Advisory Board on Education, that is CABE, we call CABE. Subsequently, the Government of India passed the resolution on National Policy on Education in 1968, and this formed the foundation of education reforms in India until the approval of the new policy in the year 1986. So, it aimed to encourage national progress, a sense of common citizenship and culture, and to strengthen national integration. The national policy had given its recommendations on the following aspects. Let's see what are the aspects here. Number one, here given free and compulsory education, status, emoluments and education of teachers, development of languages, regional languages, then implementation of 3-language formula, then achieving equal educational opportunity. So, this is all about National Policy on Education 1968. Now, next comes the Ishwari Patel committee. Before that, let's understand, during 1964-66, the Education Commission reviewed the position of primary education in the country. It was found that craft activities were mostly being followed as an isolated activity in schools. So, the activities were organized rather than mechanically. Only a few crafts were practiced. So, in many cases, these were not related to child's environmental situation. So, the material was not available locally. The joyful aspects of these activities were largely missing. The Education Commission laid special emphasis on this area and named this as work experience. So, the Commission stressed the educational potential of work experience. It defined work experience as participation in productive work in the school, at home, in a workshop, on a farm, in a factory, or in any other production situation. In the year 1977, there was again a change. That is, the Review Committee on Education, popularly known as the Ishwari Bhai Patel Committee, used the phrase socially useful productive work, that is SUPW, for this subject area. So, the committee stressed the social aspect. It also laid special emphasis on cultural and recreational aspects of work experience. Then, this committee identified 6 basic need areas, namely food, shelter, clothing, health and hygiene, culture and recreation, community work, and social service. Now, work experience activities were to be followed and to be evolved in and around these areas, these 6 areas. So, the committee also emphasized a closer linkage between the school and community. The original name given by the Education Commission was once again used by the National Policy on Education 1986. The national policy strongly stressed the need for the introduction of work experience at all stages of education. So, the Commission emphasized the education aspects of work experience. It considered work experience as an important area of the curriculum at the primary stage. So, the national policy was revised in 1992. We will discuss it later. Let's see National Policy on Education 1986. 1986, here before the finalization of the National Policy on Education NP 1986, it was made open to the general public for thoughtful debates under the title of Change of Education. So, the declaration for the same was made on 11th August 1985. So, the emphasis of the national policy on education was on the vocationalization of education. Now, the term vocationalization of education, actually the vocationalization was used to align education with areas like agriculture, rural development programs, communication and other areas concerned as they were with the overall development of the economy. So, the policy also stressed the significance of open university system of education to expand faster the level of higher education. The National Policy on Education specified that the nation should produce men and women with skills to use the recent and modern technology so that they can earn their livelihood without much suffering. The National Policy on Education 1986 considered education as a continuum, that is continuous. To earn the maximum benefits of the productive human resources of the country, the best mode is through education, obviously. Accordingly, on the 7th May 1990, the Government of India announced the appointment of a new committee to review the National Policy on Education, that is 1986. That revised National Policy on Education 1992, the National Policy on Education 1986 was modified in 1992 by the Program of Action, that is POA, Program of Action 1992 under the National Policy on Education NPE 1986. The revised recommendations were implemented on certain aspects like equity, social justice and education, early childhood care and education, adult and continuing education, then education and right to work, higher education, technical and management education and resources of education. So, this is all about POA, Program of Action 1992. So, the national policy was revised in 1992 as we discussed. The revised policy also laid special emphasis on work experience, we should remember. It stated that work experience was essential for the development of learners. The policy emphasized the educational and learning aspects of work experience. So, the immediate environment around the child and the community outside the school must be closely linked actually. Work experience would help in this integration process. The things prepared by children should be useful to the community. The activity should be according to the interests, abilities and needs of the children. So, the program should cover simple to complex activities. These should be organized in a graded manner. This is how the name of the area has changed from time to time, but under every nomenclature, productive activities was considered an important component of the curriculum. Participation in work experience according to the policy should help the child in future to join the country's productive workforce. So, this is all about the commissions, that is post-independence era. I will come up with the next class in the next video. If you like the class, please do like, share, subscribe and comment below. Thanks for your attention and time. Happy learning.